All right, good afternoon. We have just received information from the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali indicating that a UN military vehicle was hit by an improvised explosive device on the Boni-Douentza axis in the region of Mopti in Mali. Preliminary reports indicate that 4 peacekeepers were killed and 4 others were wounded. Medical evacuations are currently ongoing. The Special Representative of the Secretary General, Mohammad Saleh Anadif, condemned the attack. We join him in extending our condolences to the families of the victims and in wishing a speedy recovery to those injured. And I do expect a more formal statement from the Secretary General shortly. Our colleagues from UNICEF said today they are deeply saddened and shocked by the killing of their colleagues, along with 5 other education workers who were attacked on 25th February while traveling in the northwestern region of the Central African Republic near Markunda, a remote area near the Chadian border. They strongly condemned the senseless act against aid workers who were there to improve the lives of the most vulnerable populations. We join them in offering our deepest condolences to the families and to the colleagues of their victims. Later today, the Secretary General, along with the Deputy Secretary General and the Secretary General's Special Envoy for Haiti, Josette Chirin, will host a high-level retreat bringing together some of the world's most committed innovators in finance, health, and technology to stand with the government and the people of Haiti in defeating the scourge of cholera. Defeating cholera in Haiti is not only a matter of saving lives, but of justice. Today, incidents of cholera have declined by 99%, and we praise the government in Haiti and the people for their leadership on this front. To eradicate the last 1% of incidences, we will explore game-changing ways of partnering with nations or deploying new technologies in other areas of the world to brainstorm with the top leadership of the UN and Haiti on how we write this new chapter of hope for the country. The President of Haiti has called for a shift from aid to investment, the all-critical development shift from handouts to handshakes. The Secretary General has pledged a new type of partnership with Haiti in achieving not only the 2030 vision of a Haiti without extreme poverty, but also in defeating the devastating 8-year-long epidemic of cholera. For more than a century, the devastation of cholera has galvanized nations from England to Italy to the Philippines to transform hygiene, water, sanitation, and health systems. The dream here is that this terrible tragedy can be alchemized into a new beginning for Haiti and become an example for the world that big goals can be achieved in targeted, measurable ways by marshaling the world's best practices and ideas. This is an opening of a new relationship between the government of Haiti and the United Nations. The Secretary General and his Special Envoy are deeply committed to partnering with Haiti to raise hundreds of millions of dollars to end the scourge of cholera. This is an important matter of justice and saving lives, and we will not waver from this commitment, and we will see it through the job done. Back here in the Security Council, Jeff Feltman, the Undersecretary General for Political Affairs, told Security Council members this morning that the brief respite in the Council's unanimously demanded from Syria only days ago in Resolution 2401 has not materialized. The airstrikes, shelling, and ground offensive continues. There are even reports of yet another chlorine gas attack. What is needed, he said, is the implementation of 2401, and that is clearly not happening. He said the UN condemns all violations of international law by all parties, including the shelling from eastern Ghouta that has injured or killed civilians in Damascus. He added that the scale of the government's indiscriminate military attacks against eastern Ghouta, an area of a civilian population of 400,000, cannot be justified on the basis of targeting Jabhat al-Nusra fighters. Mr. Feltman recalled that yesterday the head of the Syrian Negotiating Commission transmitted to the Secretary General a letter on behalf of the 3 major non-state armed opposition groups, Jaish al-Islam, Faylaq al-Rahman, and Ahrar al-Sham, and civilian groups in eastern Ghouta regarding their full commitment to the implementation of 2401. Specifically, they committed to ensuring the necessary environment for UN humanitarian access, as well as to, quote, expel all elements of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, Jabhat al-Nusra, and al-Qaeda, and all those belonging to these groups from eastern Ghouta. Also briefing was Mark Lowcock, the Emergency Relief Coordinator for the United Nations. He told Council members that more than 580 people are now reported to have been killed due to air and ground-based strikes in eastern Ghouta since February 18th, with well over 1,000 people wounded. At the same time, hundreds of rockets from eastern Ghouta into Damascus have reportedly killed 15 people or injured over 200. He said that the UN and its partners have convoys ready to go to 10 besieged or hard-to-reach locations. They include a 45-truck convoy with aid for 90,000 people to Douma in East Ghouta. But Mr. Lowcock warned that humanitarian access has decreased recently to the point that we are reaching more than 50 times as many people in besieged and hard-to-reach areas last year as we have done so far this year. And Mohammed bin Chambas, the Special Representative of Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, today delivered a message for the International Conference on Lake Chad in Abuja on behalf of the Secretary General. He said that Lake Chad was once a major source of livelihood for millions of people living through its basin, but today the lake's water levels have shrunk 90% to what it was in 1960. He added that the desertification advances and trade routes between the affected countries are interrupted. Food security has become a major concern. There are 4.5 million food insecure people across the region, and this is projected to rise to 5.8 million by August of this year. This is also has deep impact on the area's socioeconomic outlook and has led to increased insecurity in a region that has been affected by violent extremism. Mr. Chambas called on the government of the countries of the Lake Chad area and the international community at large to take decisive action to save Lake Chad. Doing so, he said, will help restore lives and livelihoods for millions of people, foster regional integration and development, and offer durable solutions to the Lake Chad Basin crisis. And in Brussels today, the Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Ursula Mueller, spoke at a conference organized by the European Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations, otherwise known as ECHO, on the humanitarian crisis in East Ukraine. She reiterated the need to keep the spotlight on the dire situation faced by millions of conflict-impacted Ukrainians. She said it is sobering to note that 4 years ago, Ukraine had no need for a humanitarian appeal. Yet today, 3.4 million Ukrainians need humanitarian assistance for their protection and survival, particularly in the eastern parts of Donetsk and Luhansk. At least 2,530 civilians have been killed since the hostilities began. 9,000 have been injured. Some 1.6 million Ukrainians are displaced across the country. The most vulnerable among them are the elderly, with pensioners making over half of the people in need. And yesterday, you will see we issued a statement on the situation in Nigeria, in which the Secretary General said he was gravely concerned over the situation of the more than 100 schoolgirls abducted by suspected Boko Haram insurgents during an attack on an educational institution in Dapchi town in Yobe State. He strongly condemned the attack and the abduction. The Secretary General calls for an immediate and unconditional release of all missing girls and for their safe return to the families. He urges the national authorities to swiftly bring those responsible to this act to justice. The Secretary General reiterates the solidarity and support of the UN to the government of Nigeria and other affected countries in the region in their fight against terrorism and violent extremism. Wanted to flag that the UN mission in Afghanistan today welcomed the Afghan government's renewed calls for unconditional peace talks with the Taliban and the outlining of a framework for peace presented at the Kabul Process Conference that took place in Kabul today. Together with 25 countries and international organizations participating in the second Kabul Process Conference, the mission strongly supports the vision for peace through intra-Afghan dialogue and urges all parties involved to engage at the earliest times. And at the opening today of the 42nd UN International School, the 42nd Conference of the UN International Schools in the UN, the Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed addressed the participants on the theme of technology, innovation, and the future of work. In her remarks touched upon many of the positive aspects of how technological advances are profoundly changing how we live, work, and interact, but also she highlighted the concerns and risks to be mindful of. Speaking to her audience of students, which she described as the influencers of today and the leaders of tomorrow. She reminded them over the coming days to keep a clear mind about the values and aspiration that define humankind, to think creatively and act big, and urge them to think globally and act locally, and to be the change agents the world needs. Our colleagues at UNFPA have asked us to share with you the following statement that the UN Population Fund has said today welcomes the recent news coverage about possible sexual exploitation and abuse in the distribution of humanitarian aid inside Syria. UNFPA underscores it has zero tolerance for any form of abuse or exploitation. One of the strong tools of the humanitarian system in Syria to look at such forms of abuse is the Voices publication, which has been produced for the last 3 years as a programming tool to determine the needs and plan responses. By bringing such information to the attention of the entire UN and humanitarian actors, it helps direct programming to address such issues as sexual exploitation and abuse. UNFPA is proud of its work to lead as the lead agency with the UN humanitarian system and to combat all forms of gender-based violence. It is its own program providing reproductive health and gender-based violence services in southern Syria. UNFPA has put in internal mechanisms to guard against sexual exploitation and abuse, including inspections of the programs by independent outside monitors. UNFPA works only with 2 NGOs in southern Syria and has not received any allegations related to sexual exploitation and abuse. Lastly, tomorrow is the first of the month, which means a new council presidency. There you go. 3 p.m., Ambassador Karel van Oostrom, permanent representative of the Netherlands to the United Nations and presiding the council during the Ides of March, will be here to brief you at 3 p.m. and answer your questions, as I shall at this very moment. Mr. Bays.
2 follow-ups to things that you raised. The first one is on the death of the peacekeepers. Does the Secretary-General feel now that because of what's happened, it should speed up the important recommendations made in the Cruz report?
First of all, we have to wait for the details of this particular horrendous attack. But I think our colleagues in Mali and in the Central African Republic, our peacekeepers, have been in the forefront of really bearing the brunt of attacks on peacekeepers. And this, as you say, underscores the need for rethinking of how and when peacekeepers are deployed to ensure that they come properly equipped. And just as important, that they come not only properly equipped in terms of the mechanics, but in terms of the mandate and the authority given to them, and whether or not it is a peacekeeping mission or a peace-enforcing mission, which may demand a different kind of solution.
My second follow-up question. I'm sorry, I walked in during what you were saying about Haiti. But reportedly the Haitian ambassador has been recalled following comments made by the SRSG in Port-au-Prince. Can you tell us what the Secretary-General's response to that? Does he support the comments she made?
We've been informed of the recalling of the ambassador. On the comments made by the special representative, I would only say that the Secretary-General stands in full solidarity with the people and the government of Haiti.
Does he support the position of the special representative in this? Did she exceed her mandate with those comments?
I would refer you to my answer, what I've just given you. Masuji.
Yes. Thank you, Stéphane. About this question that I've been asking, and I just want to ask, what is it that is, holds United Nations and other countries back from questioning Israel as about the plight of the Palestinian children in Israeli jails? Nobody seems to bother about that. Last time when I saw the update, which was about a week ago, it kept on saying 400, but there has been no updates. How many children, Palestinian children, in Israeli jails?
I don't have an update for you, and I think the Secretary General, his press conference, fully represented the UN's position on that issue.
I mean, one doesn't even know how they're doing when they're incarcerated. How long they've been? Are their numbers increasing?
I think throughout the world, they are various situations where minors and children are incarcerated, and it's important that their rights be fully respected. Mr. Lee.
Asking something on South Sudan, since at the end of, I saw you around, but there was no stakeout at the end of by the special representative. So I wanted to ask you whether the report that the UN is commissioning into the sexual exploitation allegations in WOW, what if there's a deadline for it, and if it will be made public. And I also wanted to ask you, or I guess Mr. Shearer, whether he's aware of the travel ban on a civil society leader that the U.S. Embassy in Juba has denounced. Does the UN have any view on the government?
I haven't seen that report. You can check with our colleagues in the mission on the accusations against the Ghanaians. I think Mr. Shearer and the mission moved extremely swiftly as soon as he became aware of these allegations of transactional sex to remove the foreign police unit from WOW to Juba. They are currently confined to base. OIOS is doing an investigation. The Ghanaian government is also doing an investigation. We hope that will be finished quickly, and then we will see what measures, if the allegations are founded and turn out to be true, we will obviously be able to take measures, and we would expect the Ghanaian authorities to also take measures.
Right, but will the report or the findings, one way or another?
Well, I think we will make it clear once we have once we've concluded the investigation which allegations were founded and the measures we've taken.
And does the Secretary General, does he believe that in general, if it's possible, based on timing, that his special representatives, when they come to New York and do such briefings, should have some Q&A with the press, i.e. at a stakeout?
I think it's up to them to decide what they feel is best. Luke. No, Masuji, your name is not Luke just yet. Go ahead.
What is the SG's reaction to the proposed elimination of presidential term limits in China?
As far as I know right now, it's a proposal making its way through the system in China, so I do not have a particular comment at this point.
On the peacekeeping attack, do you have any details on their nationalities?
None that I can share at this point, because all the people that need to be informed have yet to be informed, and I think first and foremost we have to think of the families of those who were killed. Mademoiselle. We, because all the little you, because only men had lifted their arms, so you would be the only mademoiselle lifting her arm, asking for a question. Yes.
Merci. UNICEF staff have a petition calling for senior management to take more action to address sexual misconduct in light of the allegations surrounding the UNICEF Deputy Executive Director, Justin Forsyth. I'm wondering if the SG's seen that and is willing to take it up. Some of the things they're calling for are more reporting channels being made available to survivors, statute of limitations on reporting to be eliminated. I'm wondering if he's seen that and is looking to take up some of these.
I haven't spoken to him about it. I haven't seen it. I don't know if he has. I think for our part, for the Secretariat, I think the launch of the Speak Up line is exactly to meet what we know is a demand, is a need of a place for people to call and be guided on how to report harassment. The Secretary General expects all parts of the UN system, especially those UN funds and programs over which he has the most direct authority, to take the issue of harassment with the utmost seriousness, to ensure that staff feel they are listened to and staff feel they have a place where they can report and how they can express themselves, and ensure, more importantly, that there's an environment free from harassment. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm wondering, what's your comment on a report says unreleased UN report links North Korea to their Syrian chemical weapons?
I haven't seen the report. The report, I think, is going to the Sanctions Committee. My understanding is that the report will be made public, be published next month. our principal position is that we expect all member states to abide by Security Council resolutions, and especially various sanctions regimes. Madame.
Thank you. Thank you, Stéphane. On the matter of delineation of the border between Israel and Lebanon, maritime borders, is the United Nations very much involved in this matter, especially in the matter of gas and oil? Specifically?
No, we're not especially involved in these issues. What is important, I think, is for both countries to use diplomatic channels to work through their differences on the issue of natural resources, on their maritime borders. There are different avenues for them to use, and we encourage them to use those.
Is it the blue? Is it the? Where is exactly the delineation between the maritime borders between Lebanon and Israel? Is it the border of the buoy?
I'm not going to. This is one of these issues where if I don't know it off the top of my head, I will not answer it off the top of my head. So I will get you some guidance. But I think what is important on the delineation of the border is that not only diplomatic measures be used, but that unilateral measures be avoided, especially in disputed areas, as security implications could arise. Mr. Lee and then Masoud.
Sure. Just on this the sexual harassment issue and the stated seriousness from the top. I just would like to request that maybe Jan Beagle, she's chairing this thing, have a press conference, and particularly since she was at UNAIDS in the very time frame where the head of the World YWCA says that it was basically Animal House, or that's the kind of phrases that she used. She said it was systemic, not just a matter that she was a victim, that there were a number of victims. It just seems kind of it's incongruous.
I think
one person would say that.
Dispute that assessment. But,
sure, but maybe she can do a press conference.
Maybe.
Okay. Please. I wanted to ask you about Cameroon. I've seen that Francois Fall is, or at least his office is tweeting that he's in the southwest region in Buea, saying he's having some great meetings. Given that the government side there has asked for an alert and that young people's motorcycles are being burned, destroying their livelihood, I'm just wondering, are we going to get a readout? Was that said in advance?
Let me see what I can get.
Seems like Mr. Feltman didn't actually know it was taking place. I tried to ask him, and so I'm just wondering, is this
Well, he may not be the only one. I was not aware of the visit, so that's...
Can you get... Okay. Have a bit more, but go.
Go ahead.
Oh, really? Okay,
no, go ahead. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. I do want to ask, and I'm sorry to have to ask this. I went to cover the photo ops today of the Secretary General taking credentials. And on my way up, this very microphone here, showed it to UN Security, said I'm going to be using it. Seemed to be no problem. In the middle of it, I was told you can't shoot any audio, which is strange because UN TV shoots audio. And this was during the photo op with the Egyptian ambassador when he said, send my warm regards to President Sisi, et cetera. I just wanted to know because I need to know to not run afoul of any rules.
Nobody wants to run afoul of any rules.
For sure.
That's definitely for sure. You should talk to Malu. Masuji.
Yeah, thank you, Stéphane. Stéphane, about this, it's now the latest figure coming from Syria is that there are about 600 civilians killed. Now, and has there been determined as to what are the entities which are now consistently violating the so-called ceasefire, if at all there is such a thing? Has that been determined?
I would refer you to the very detailed and information-filled statements delivered by both Mr. Feltman and Mr. Lowcock, which I think answer your questions as much as the United Nations is able to answer. What is clear is that the people of Syria are continuing to suffer, especially the people in eastern Ghouta.
Also, Stéphane, one thing that I have to, it's like maybe it's housekeeping. So your website, it is very slow. It is not updated. And
the website is a reflection of me. Matthew.
But the thing is somebody can
well,
do it.
Well, I'll check. I will try to update myself and the website. We do. My office, I think, does a very good job of updating and putting up speeches and statements as quickly as we're we're able to. We tweet them out, we email them out. What we don't do is hand deliver them, but we would be happy to do that if that would help. Mr. Lee.
Refresh.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you, I guess,
bottle. Yeah.
This afternoon, Jeffrey Yin, who was the personal assistant of Eng Lap-Sang, the businessman who was recently convicted on six counts of bribery of the UNPGA and others in the UN system, is set for sentencing. And so I think it's a time that I'd like to ask you: does the UN feel that or is there anything more that it's going to be doing as this case? Mr. Eng Lap-Sang is going to be sentenced as well, and he was found guilty. Given these guilty pleas, and there's another case coming down the pike, what steps has anyone in the UN system been actually held accountable for what the jury found were bribes paid in the UN?
I think those who have committed crimes were clearly held accountable in court. Thank you.